My fiancée called me saying she wasn't anyone's property and had her own rights after I caught her texting her ex. So I told her she had the right to be single, cut her off completely, and moved out. She tracked down my new place and begged on her knees at my doorstep for forgiveness. My name is Tyler, and I'm 29 years old. I work as an HVAC technician and pull in decent money. Not rich by any means, but comfortable enough that bills aren't keeping me up at night. For the past 2 years, I'd been dating Jessica, who's 25. We met at some overpriced hipster coffee shop where she was supposedly doing laptop work, which basically meant scrolling through Instagram while her macchiato slowly turned into expensive room temperature garbage. She had that whole artsy look going on. Nose ring, vintage band shirt from a band she'd definitely never listened to. She'd talk about her creative pursuits like she was the next Picasso coming to revolutionize the art world. I'll admit, the first year was actually pretty solid between us. She does these abstract paintings that honestly look like someone projectile vomited paint onto canvas after a night of bad tacos, but she calls them emotional landscapes or some other pretentious nonsense. I'm a straightforward guy, you know? I fix air conditioning units for a living. Cold air either works or it doesn't. There's no gray area, no artistic interpretation needed. But hey, opposites attract, right? That's what I kept telling myself anyway. We moved in together about 10 months ago into a nice 2-bedroom place in a decent neighborhood in Tampa. Nothing fancy, but it had parking and the neighbors weren't cooking meth, so I considered it a win. I was covering about 75% of the bills because I actually had a steady job with real income while she was building her brand as an artist. In 2 full years, she managed to sell exactly 3 paintings for a whopping $950 total. For perspective, I make that in just a few days of work. But sure, she was totally going to be the next Van Gogh. Looking back now, there were red flags bigger than the ones they wave at NASCAR races. But I was thinking with the wrong head, if you know what I mean. The problems really started about 7 months ago when we went to this Italian place for her friend's birthday. Nothing crazy expensive, just a decent spot with actual tablecloths and waiters who don't yell your order number across the restaurant. Jessica ordered some complicated pasta dish with more modifications than a Fast and Furious car. Know this, extra that, sauce on the side, you know the type. When her food arrived, she took one microscopic bite and immediately flagged down our server like she was hailing a cab in Manhattan during rush hour. She claimed she had specifically said no mushrooms, but the server, this poor kid who was clearly having the shift from hell, checked his notepad and had no record of that request anywhere. Instead of being reasonable about what was obviously her own mistake, Jessica went full nuclear Karen mode. She demanded a completely different meal on the house because of their mistake. The whole table went dead quiet. I'm sitting there watching this girl terrorize a 20-year-old kid over fungi she probably imagined saying she didn't want in the first place. She got her free meal and bragged about it the entire ride home like she had just negotiated world peace or something. That should have been my cue to run, but the sex was good and I'm an idiot. Then, about 5 months ago at Walmart, she spent 25 minutes circling the parking lot like a buzzard looking for roadkill because she couldn't find a spot within 20 feet of the entrance. She started muttering about how inconsiderate people were, taking up prime spots when they could easily walk an extra 45 seconds. We finally found a space next to some beat-up Toyota with a tiny door ding, and before we even got out of the car, she was taking photos of her paint job for evidence, in case the Toyota had scratched her precious Nissan Sentra. When we came back out from shopping, she spotted a microscopic scratch on her bumper that could have been there since she bought the damn car for all we knew. She immediately started CSIing the parking lot for suspects and zeroed in on this mom who was loading groceries with her 2 kids. Jessica straight up accused her of hit and run. This poor woman started apologizing profusely, even though she clearly hadn't done anything wrong. Her kids are staring, other shoppers are rubbernecking the drama, and I'm sitting there contemplating whether it's too late to pretend I don't know this person. I finally shut the whole thing down and got us out of there. But Jessica sulked the entire drive home about how people don't take responsibility for their actions anymore. The irony was completely lost on her. But the real shit show started 4 months ago, when Brandon slithered back into the picture like a discount snake wearing knockoff Jordans. Everything had been cruising along fine until this mouth breather started liking every single one of Jessica's Instagram posts. It started innocent enough, just heart emoji reactions to her art photos. Then came the comments with generic thirsty nonsense like, looking good, and miss seeing your art. I found out Brandon was her ex when she mentioned him in passing, like it was no big deal at all. Apparently, they had dated for about a year before me and broke up because he was figuring himself out. That's girl speak for a 28-year-old man-child who still lives with his parents, has his mommy do his laundry, and works part-time at Best Buy. The guy couldn't commit to anything more serious than his PlayStation achievements. About 4 months ago, those innocent Instagram interactions became daily text marathons. That's when my boy Blake entered the picture. Blake's been my best friend since high school. He's a sarcastic bastard who has this supernatural ability to sniff out bullshit from 3 zip codes away. The dude's like a human lie detector with a sense of humor, and I trust his judgment completely. He was over at our place watching Monday Night Football when Jessica's phone started lighting up like a slot machine hitting a jackpot. Blake glanced at her phone, buzzing every 45 seconds, and raised an eyebrow. "Damn, someone's popular tonight," he said with that trademark smirk. "Your phone's getting more action than a teenager's browser history." "It's just my friends," Jessica replied, not even looking up from her screen as her fingers flew across the keyboard. Blake's bullshit detector went off immediately. "Friends texting at 10:30 p.m. on a Tuesday night? Yeah, sure." She got defensive faster than a politician caught in a scandal. "Is that not allowed?" she snapped. Blake just shrugged and went back to the game, but I could see those mental gears turning behind his eyes. He was filing this whole interaction away for future reference, and I knew he'd bring it up later when we were alone. The texting escalated like a stock market crash in the following weeks. There were 2 a.m. messages, constant notifications during dinner, and her phone was permanently glued to her hand like it was some kind of life support device. She'd giggle at her screen and then angle it away whenever I glanced over, like she was guarding state secrets or something. Then came the breaking point that would change everything. We were watching Netflix on the couch when her phone buzzed around 11:15 p.m. She grabbed it with lightning speed, but I managed to catch the notification preview before she could hide it. It was from Brandon, and it read, "I can't stop thinking about that night we..." When she saw me looking, instead of explaining like a normal human being would, she clutched that phone like it contained nuclear launch codes, and her life depended on keeping them classified. "What did that message say?" I asked, keeping my voice as level as possible. "Nothing important," she replied, still death-gripping her phone. "Bullshit, I saw it. What night, Jessica?" That's when she completely lost her mind. "You don't own me," she shouted, jumping up from the couch. "I can talk to whoever I want." This was classic deflection, and we both knew it. Nobody had said she couldn't talk to people. I just wanted to know why her ex was sending her late-night love letters about their greatest hits collection. "I never said you couldn't," I replied calmly. "I'm asking what your ex is texting you about at 11 p.m. It's none of your business." Actually, it becomes my business when my girlfriend's ex is sending her bedtime stories about their romantic memories. She jumped up like the couch was on fire, phone still death-gripped against her chest. "You're being controlling." "Are you freaking kidding me? Now I'm controlling?" "Yes, you are." That's when she stormed off to our bedroom to create her TikTok masterpiece that would change both our lives forever. 25 minutes of furious typing and camera adjustments later, my phone buzzed with a TikTok notification. She had tagged me in her latest production, and I couldn't believe what I was watching. Picture this cinematic masterpiece. Jessica sitting in our bedroom, complete with crocodile tears and dramatic lighting, talking to the camera like she was delivering a United Nations speech on human rights violations. "So my boyfriend just tried to tell me I can't text my friends because he's uncomfortable," she said, dabbing at her eyes. Like, sir, I am not your property. I am a grown woman with rights. The red flags are everywhere, girls. When a man tries to control who you talk to, run. This is what toxic masculinity looks like. She had hashtagged it with every feminist buzzword in the book. Toxic men, nyuk red flags. Independent woman, nyuk saw, gaslight. Manipulative. The video got 65 likes in the first 15 minutes, which for her usual content was basically going viral. Comments started rolling in from her echo chamber of single friends and fellow man-haters. "Yes, queen, drop that controlling energy. You deserve better. Men who try to isolate you from friends are literally abusive. Trust your gut, girl. You're too good for this toxic energy." He's showing his true colors. Her bestie Victoria, who's been single for 4 years and gives relationship advice like a blind person giving driving lessons, chimed in with, "I've been telling you, sis, you're way too good for this energy." I'm sitting there reading these comments, thinking I must be living in some alternate universe where asking about suspicious text messages makes you the villain in a poorly written relationship drama. But you know what? She was absolutely right about one thing. She had every right to text whoever she wanted, whenever she wanted. Just like I had every right not to subsidize the lifestyle of someone who chose TikTok drama over honest communication. So I made my own TikTok response. There I was, sitting in my work van after a brutal 13-hour shift, still in my HVAC uniform, looking tired but completely unbothered. My message was simple and to the point. Update. Respecting her right to be single. Peace out. I posted it as a direct response to hers and went about my evening like nothing had happened. Her phone must have started blowing up like the 4th of July fireworks show, because my simple 12-second video got 650 likes in just 1 hour. The comment section was pure gold, and people were absolutely not having Jessica's victim narrative. Bro said, "If you want to be independent, and walked away." King shit. This is how you handle disrespect. She's going to regret this so hard. Man's about to show her what independence really costs. Blake texted me a screenshot of both videos with crying laughing emojis. Saw the TikToks. I'm making popcorn. This shit is getting interesting. I called him while throwing my essential stuff into garbage bags. You still got that spare room? Always, brother. Bring drinks and prepare for the show. I grabbed my tools, work clothes, PlayStation 5, and all my important documents. I left my key on the kitchen counter with a note written on the back of an electric bill. Rent's paid through the month. After that, you're independent. Good luck figuring out adulting. The meltdown started exactly 2 hours later, right on schedule. Her first text was almost reasonable. "Where are you?" Then came, "Are you seriously leaving over a TikTok?" Followed by, "Wait, why would you post that?" This quickly escalated to, "This is so immature." And finally, "We need to talk like adults." Adults. This was coming from the woman who had just aired our dirty laundry on social media, instead of having a 5-minute conversation in our living room. Blake greeted me at his door with a cold Bud Light and that shit-eating grin that meant he was about to say something that would make me laugh despite everything going on. "So, how's it feel to be TikTok famous?" "Liberating as hell," I replied, cracking open the beer. His girlfriend Kelly was more direct, and I've always appreciated her no-bullshit approach to life. "Good for you," she said firmly. "Any woman who puts relationship business on blast for internet clout instead of talking to her man doesn't deserve a man. Period." The first night at Blake's, Jessica called me 26 times. 26 freaking times. Blake started answering my phone on speaker just to mess with her, because that's the kind of loyal friend every man needs in his corner. "Hello, you've reached Jessica's ex-boyfriend's voicemail," Blake would say in his most professional tone. "Blake, where is Tyler?" Jessica would demand. "He's busy being single and loving life." "Can I take a message?" "This isn't funny." "He can't just leave." "Actually, he can," Blake replied with perfect comedic timing. "That's literally how leaving works." Wild concept, I know. Click. That's why this dude's been my boy for 16 years straight. Day 2 is when the consequences started hitting her bank account like a freight train carrying overdue bills. I woke up to 14 missed calls and a text thread that read like a desperate person's manifesto. "Baby, please come home." "I'm sorry about the TikTok." I was emotional. "Hello, I know you're seeing these messages. The electric bill is due today. What's the login for the account? You can't just abandon your responsibilities here. This is financial abuse. I'm calling my mom." Financial abuse. Because apparently paying 75% of shared expenses for 10 months, then stopping when she chooses internet drama over basic communication, is now classified as abuse in her twisted logic. I texted back using her own empowerment language. "You're independent now. Figure it out." That afternoon, Blake forwarded me another TikTok masterpiece. Jessica was back at it again, this time looking more frazzled than a retail worker during Black Friday. Update. My ex changed all the streaming passwords because he's petty and wants to punish me for standing up for myself. This is what emotional manipulation looks like, girls. He's trying to control me even after we broke up. Here's the thing, though. I didn't change any passwords. I canceled the subscriptions entirely, along with her gym membership that she used exactly twice in 7 months, her Spotify Premium that she needed for her aesthetic playlists, and that overpriced meal kit delivery service where she'd let half the ingredients rot because cooking was apparently too much work. Her phone must have been buzzing non-stop with declined payment notifications from every subscription service in Silicon Valley. The messages kept flooding in. WTF? My gym membership got declined in front of everyone. Do you know how embarrassing that was? I was in the middle of binge-watching a series on Netflix. "You canceled my Spotify. I have 4 years worth of playlists on there." This is actually psychotic behavior. Blake was dying laughing while reading over my shoulder. She's really pressed about losing her Taylor Swift playlists. Who gets that emotionally attached to a streaming service? Meanwhile, Brandon started getting brave in her comment sections. probably thinking this was his golden opportunity to swoop in and play knight in shining Best Buy armor. His comments were predictably pathetic. "You don't deserve this, queen." He's showing his true colors. "A real man wouldn't treat you like this." His loss. "You're better off without that toxic energy in your life." Here's what Jessica conveniently forgot to mention about her digital white knight. Brandon's 28 years old, lives in his childhood bedroom with race car bed sheets, drives a 2006 Honda Civic with 320,000 miles and a bumper held on with duct tape and prayers. But sure, Brandon, come save the day with your $30 an hour wisdom and mom's basement lifestyle. The power got shut off on day 3. That's when Jessica's mother entered the chat like a final boss in a video game nobody wanted to play. My phone rang at 7:30 a.m. with an unknown number, and I knew immediately this wasn't going to be good. "Tyler, this is Linda, Jessica's mother," came the voice that could cut glass. Linda is peak Karen evolutionary form, the type of woman who demands to speak to managers at Subway because her sandwich doesn't look exactly like the promotional photo. She's been enabling Jessica's princess behavior for 25 years, so naturally, this was all my fault somehow. "I understand you and Jessica had a little disagreement, but don't you think you're taking this a bit too far?" She began with that condescending tone parents use when they think you're being unreasonable. "She's staying with me now because you abandoned her like some kind of deadbeat." "I didn't abandon anyone, Linda," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "I left after she made a public TikTok calling me toxic instead of having a 5-minute adult conversation. It was just social media, Tyler. You know how girls get when they're emotional. They say things they don't mean." She's 25, not 16. And how girls get isn't an excuse for public disrespect and character assassination. Well, she can't afford that apartment on her own. You'd really make her homeless over a silly little video? There it was, the real problem. Princess couldn't maintain her lifestyle without my financial subsidies, and Mommy Dearest expected me to keep paying for the privilege of being publicly humiliated. "She's an adult with a job and a college degree," I said firmly. "She'll figure it out like the rest of us did." "You're being unnecessarily cruel. She made a mistake and she's genuinely sorry." "No, Linda, she's not sorry, she's broke. There's a difference." Linda made that indignant huffing sound that entitled women perfect over decades of getting their way. "I raised Jessica to be independent and strong. She doesn't need a man to... Then she should be perfectly fine without me paying her bills." Click. Blake, who had been listening to my side of the conversation while making breakfast, started slow clapping like I'd just delivered an Oscar-worthy performance. "The apple doesn't fall far from the entitled tree, does it?" he said, shaking his head. "Let me guess. Everything's your fault and you should just pay for her mistakes forever?" But the real entertainment came when Jessica started calling my sister Sophia, thinking she could manipulate her way back into my life through family connections. This was a massive miscalculation on Jessica's part. Sophia is a year younger than me, works as an ICU nurse, and has negative patience for bullshit after dealing with life and death situations on a daily basis. She's got that same dry, cutting humor that runs in our family. Sophia texted me, "Your psycho ex is blowing up my phone crying. This is better than cable TV." Then she sent me screenshots of their text conversation, and I couldn't stop laughing. Jessica, "Sophia, please talk to Tyler. He's being so cruel and I don't understand why he's punishing me like this." Sophia, "Maybe because you aired your relationship problems on TikTok instead of talking to him like an adult human being." Jessica, "I was just expressing my feelings. He was being controlling." Sophia, "He asked about late-night texts from your ex. That's not controlling. That's called having basic relationship standards." Jessica, "You don't understand what our relationship was really like." Sophia, "I understand you're homeless and looking for someone to blame. How's that working out for you?" Sophia followed up with another text. "She called me 4 more times after that. I didn't answer. Want me to block her number?" That's when Jessica's friend group decided to launch their own harassment campaign, probably thinking they could bully me into taking back their broke friend, who was quickly becoming everyone else's problem. Victoria called me at work, interrupting a conversation with my supervisor about a major commercial job we'd just landed. "Tyler, you need to stop this petty shit and be a man about this situation," she demanded without even saying hello first. "Excuse me? Jessica made one tiny mistake and you're literally ruining her entire life." "She made a choice," I replied calmly. "She chose to blast our business on TikTok instead of talking to me face to face. That's not standing up for herself. That's performing for internet strangers. You're being controlling and emotionally abusive." "Yeah, sure," I said, not bothering to engage with that ridiculous accusation. Her other friend Ashley started flooding my Instagram DMs with dissertation-length paragraphs about toxic masculinity and emotional abuse. I made it through about half of one message before blocking her entirely. These people were exhausting. Day 5, I called our landlord, Mr. Rodriguez. He's a cool older dude who owns a handful of properties around the city, always been straight up with tenants, fixes things when they break, and doesn't hassle you about minor lease violations. Tyler, good to hear from you, man. Everything okay with the apartment? Actually, I need to discuss the lease situation. I'm moving out and want to either transfer it to just Jessica or break it entirely. There was a long pause on the other end, and I could practically hear him thinking through the implications. Between you and me, son, I'd rather work with you on this, he said finally. Jessica was, let's call her challenging before you moved in. Late payments, noise complaints from neighbors, left trash bags in the hallways like she was raised by wolves. You moving in cleaned up her act considerably. This was interesting news. Princess had a track record of being a problematic tenant that I never knew about, which explained why she'd been so eager to move in with me after only a year of dating. I'll make this easy for you, he continued. I'll let you break the lease with 30 days notice. You'll lose the security deposit, but that's better than me having to deal with her solo again. Deal. I'll have everything out by the end of the month. I texted Jessica. Gave Mr. Rodriguez 30 days notice. You can try to get a new lease in your name or find somewhere else to live. The response was immediate and completely fucking unhinged. You can't do this. My name is on the lease too. Wait, so you're moving out? This is illegal. I'm calling a lawyer. Brandon says you can't just kick me out, Brandon says. Of course, the Best Buy philosopher had legal opinions about tenant rights. You're free to negotiate a new lease with Mr. Rodriguez if you want to stay, I replied calmly. 2 hours of silence. Then reality started setting in. He wants first month, last month, and security deposit. That's $500 total. You know I don't have that kind of money. Please don't do this to me. I'll delete the TikTok, I'll block Brandon, I'll do whatever you want. Too little. Too late. I'd already put a deposit down on a 6-studio apartment downtown with exposed brick walls, huge windows, and an in-unit washer and dryer. And get this, it was $450 less per month than my half of our old place. Funny how much money you save when you're not subsidizing someone else's artistic journey and avocado toast addiction. That's when Brandon decided to shoot his shot directly, sliding into my Instagram DMs with the confidence of a man who'd never paid a full month's rent in his adult life. Yo, bro. I don't want any problems, but Jessica deserves way better than how you're treating her right now. She's a good girl and you're being toxic. Maybe it's time to man up and apologize before you lose her forever. I screenshot that shit and sent it to Blake immediately. Blake replied with laughing emojis. Is this fool trying to lecture you from his mom's basement about how to treat women? The audacity is astronomical. I replied to Brandon. You can have her, bro. Good luck paying her bills. His response showed his true colors. Maybe I will. At least I know how to treat a woman with respect and not try to control every aspect of her life. Yeah, nothing says treating a woman right like sliding into taken women's DMs and living with your mom at 28. You're a real catch, Brandon. She's all yours. He blocked me after that exchange, but the real satisfaction was still coming. Jessica had to move back in with Linda, but apparently that wasn't going to stop her from executing her brilliant master plan to make me jealous by publicly dating the Best Buy Romeo. She posted a TikTok of them at Chili's, sharing some sad-looking mozzarella stick platter that looked like it had been sitting under heat lamps since the Clinton administration. When you finally find someone who actually appreciates you and treats you right, she captioned it. New beginnings. Upgraded. Blessed. The comment section wasn't having it at all. Girl went from a union HVAC tech to a Best Buy employee. How exactly is that an upgrade? Isn't this the same dude who was sliding in your DMs while you had a whole boyfriend? Ma'am, this looks like a downgrade with extra cheese sticks. Blake sent me the video while I was installing new ductwork in a client's house. She really thought taking Discount Dan to Chili's for half-price appetizers was going to make you jealous. This girl has zero self-awareness and even less game. But wait, it gets so much better. Turns out Brandon's mom, Diane, is an even bigger piece of work than Linda, if you can imagine that. She's one of those overprotective boy moms who thinks no woman will ever be good enough for her precious 28-year-old baby who still asks her to do his laundry. Sophia got the inside scoop from Linda herself, because apparently the moms started talking and comparing notes about their disappointing children's love lives. Diane caught Jessica sneaking out of Brandon's childhood bedroom one morning and completely lost her shit. She started screaming about sluts and gold diggers trying to trap her innocent son, who obviously couldn't make poor decisions on his own. She ain't moving in here, Diane reportedly shrieked. I seen her type before. always starting drama and expecting other people to pay for everything. The final straw was when Jessica tried to do her laundry there, and Diane found her expensive thrift store clothes mixed in with Brandon's collection of graphic tees and cargo shorts. "You think you can just move in here and take over my house? This is where I raised my son." Diane literally threw Jessica's wet clothes out onto the front lawn and told her not to come back. Brandon, being the alpha male he pretends to be on social media, told his mom to chill out, but ultimately chose the woman who pays his phone bill over his new girlfriend. Jessica posted another TikTok from Linda's car. "When you realize you literally can't trust anyone anymore, these people are really harsh." Even her own followers were getting tired of the constant victim narrative. "Maybe the problem is you, sis. Girl, have you considered therapy instead of TikTok? Girl, you need to look in the mirror." She started deleting the negative comments, but screenshots are forever on the internet. Sophia was providing live commentary via text like she was covering the Super Bowl. She just called crying about how Brandon's mom called her a home wrecker. I told her maybe she should stop wrecking homes. But Jessica wasn't done making terrible life choices. I'd been living peacefully in my new apartment for about 3 weeks. Work was going great. I'd landed a big industrial contract that meant overtime pay and potential bonuses. Blake and I had been hitting the gym together consistently, and life was genuinely good for the first time in months. Then the real psycho behavior started, and I learned what desperation looks like when it's wearing a nose ring and living in complete denial. It started subtly, like most stalking does. Jessica found my new Instagram account after I'd blocked her main one, but she made a fake account using some random girl's photos and started liking posts from 2021. It was weird and pathetic, but not immediately threatening. Then she went to my LinkedIn and started endorsing me for completely random skills. "Tyler is excellent at customer service. Girl, I'm an HVAC tech. I make air conditioning work and fix heating systems. The most customer service I do is explaining to people why their electric bill is high after they leave every light in the house on 24/7. Blake thought it was hilarious. "She endorsed you for public speaking and event planning too. What's next? Underwater basket weaving? This chick is really losing it." But it escalated quickly from there. She started showing up at places she knew I'd be, like some discount private investigator who learned surveillance techniques from Netflix documentaries. First was the gym Blake and I go to. She bought a day pass and coincidentally showed up during our usual evening workout time, wearing a full face of makeup and a matching workout set that still had the tags hanging off it. "Oh my God, Tyler, what are the odds of running into you here?" she said, walking up to us like we were old friends who hadn't seen each other in years. "Pretty low since you've never voluntarily exercised in your entire life," Blake replied without missing a beat. She ignored him completely and focused on me with those crazy eyes that I was starting to recognize. "We should really talk. I've been doing a lot of thinking and self-reflection." "Nah, we're good. I'm staying right here," I said, putting my headphones back in and walking to the other side of the gym. She followed me around for 25 minutes, pretending to use equipment she clearly had no idea how to operate while trying to make conversation. She finally gave up when Blake started not so subtly recording her on his phone for evidence. 3 days later, she was at the Home Depot I always go to for work supplies, wandering around the electrical section like she was shopping for some major home improvement projects. Then she showed up at the diner where I grabbed breakfast on Saturday mornings, sitting alone at a corner booth, pretending to read some self-help book about healing from toxic relationships. The final straw was when I spotted her outside my apartment building, walking her mom's dog. Except Linda doesn't own a dog and never has. She was literally walking around the block with a random neighbor's golden retriever that she'd probably convinced some elderly person to lend her. Sophia texted me. "Psycho X called asking what your work schedule is." I told her to lose my number and maybe invest in therapy instead of stalking equipment. That's when Blake decided he'd had enough of watching this girl harass his best friend. My boy is protective as hell, and seeing this unstable woman following me around was setting off every alarm bell in his head. "All right, time for Operation Petty Revenge," he announced one evening while we were at his place eating pizza and watching the game. "This chick wants to play psychological warfare. Let's show her what that actually looks like." Blake's got a genius-level understanding of petty revenge tactics, probably from years of dealing with shitty contractors and difficult customers. First move, he made a fake Craigslist ad listing free art supplies, moving sale, everything must go today, with Linda's address and Jessica's phone number. Within hours, her phone was getting calls from every broke art student and wannabe painter in the tri-state area, asking about free canvases, paint sets, and easels. She had to change her number by evening, but Blake was just warming up. He found Brandon's gaming TikTok account. Because of course this loser has a gaming channel with 52 followers where he posts videos of himself playing Call of Duty badly. Blake started leaving comments from multiple fake accounts. Bro, your girlfriend was with that HVAC tech for 2 years and you're the rebound. That's rough, buddy. She's only using you to make her ex jealous. You realize that, right? Imagine being someone's second choice after they got dumped. Brandon's comment sections became a complete roast fest. He ended up deleting most of his videos and making his account private within a week. But the masterpiece was Blake's fake Instagram account, Catfishing Brandon. He used some random male model photos he found online and started DMing Brandon as Tyler the fitness influencer, who was supposedly interested in Jessica. The messages Blake showed me were absolutely hilarious. Tyler, Blake. Yo, I saw your girl on TikTok. Is she single yet? Brandon. Nah, man, that's my girl. Tyler, Blake. Oh, really? Because she was hitting me up yesterday, saying she needs a real man who can actually provide for her. No offense, bro. Brandon. What? When did she say that? Tyler, Blake. Like yesterday afternoon. Brandon completely lost his mind. He started accusing Jessica of cheating, demanding to go through her phone, and they ended up fighting on TikTok for days. Jessica's response was predictable. Another victim TikTok. When you realize literally all men are the same toxic energy. They say they're different, but they're all controlling and insecure deep down. This is exactly why I'm focusing on myself now. The comments were brutal. Didn't you just post about this being your upgrade? Maybe the common denominator is you, girl. So now you're breaking up? Blake was genuinely proud of himself. Good. Now dude's going to be paranoid as hell. They won't last another month, I promise. The following Wednesday, I was working a big industrial job downtown at a high-security office building. The kind of place where you need multiple badges just to use the bathroom. I'm up on a scissor lift about 25 feet off the ground, working on some overhead HVAC systems when my phone rings. It's building security. Sir, there's a young woman at the front gate claiming she's your girlfriend. Says there's a family emergency she needs to discuss with you immediately. I looked down through the massive windows and there she was at the security checkpoint, crying and making a scene like someone had died. She was surrounded by confused security guards who clearly didn't want to deal with this shit. That's my ex-girlfriend, I told them. We broke up weeks ago and she's been stalking me. She's not supposed to be here and there's no emergency. Security handled it professionally, but she didn't leave. She sat in Linda's dented Honda in the visitor parking lot across the street for 4 fucking hours waiting for my shift to end. When I finally left the job site around 6:30 p.m., she immediately started following my truck through downtown traffic. Not subtly either. She was right on my ass through every red light, honking when I stopped, weaving through lanes like she was in some kind of high-speed chase scene from a bad action movie. I called Blake while navigating through the evening rush hour nightmare. Yo, this psycho is following me home from work. What the hell do I do? Drive straight to the police station, brother. So that's exactly what I did. I pulled right into the police station parking lot with her still following me. She sat there for about 15 minutes before finally realizing how bad this looked and driving off. I went inside and filed an official report. The desk officer was surprisingly cool about the whole situation. Document everything from now on, he told me while filling out paperwork. Take photos, save texts, record the times and dates of every incident. If she escalates any further, you'll need all this evidence for a restraining order. Blake met me at the station and followed me home while Kelly picked up my truck from the parking lot later. Can't be too careful with unstable women, he said. They can flip from crying to keying your car in about 45 seconds. That night, Jessica called me 35 times between 8:30 p.m. and 6 a.m. I started recording the calls after number 12, and the voicemails got progressively more unhinged as the night went on. Tyler, pick up your phone. I know you're there. We need to talk about this like adults. This is completely ridiculous. You can't just ignore me forever. I drove by your new apartment and saw some random girl's car parked outside. Who is she? You moved on already? There was no girl's car. It was Kelly's Honda that she'd parked there while dealing with my truck situation. I'm not going away until you talk to me. I'll keep calling until you answer. Blake listened to a few of them the next morning and shook his head. Nah, this shit ends today. We're getting a restraining order and we're doing it now. The next morning, we went straight to the courthouse. The clerk looked over my evidence, screenshots of texts, recorded voicemails, photos of her following me, the police report from the workplace incident, and shook her head like she'd seen this movie 100 times before. Within 24 hours, I had official legal documents prohibiting Jessica from contacting me, coming within 100 yards of my home or workplace, or attempting any form of communication through third parties. A sheriff's deputy served her the papers at Linda's house around dinner time. According to Sophia, who heard it from our mom, who heard it from Linda in their grocery store gossip network, Jessica completely lost her shit when she realized these were actual legal documents with real consequences. "This is harassment," she reportedly screamed. "He's the one harassing me by ignoring me? I just wanted to have a conversation." The deputy apparently had to explain to both Jessica and her enabling mother that following someone home from work, calling them 35 times in one night, and showing up at their workplace unannounced is literally textbook stalking and harassment under state law. The restraining order was the reality check Jessica desperately needed. The calls stopped completely. The drive-bys ended. The fake Instagram accounts disappeared. But Blake had one final move that would end this entire saga permanently. He created a burner email account and sent Brandon's overprotective mom, Diane, a carefully curated collection of all Jessica's TikToks, especially the ones about toxic masculinity, her complaints about Brandon being controlling, and the video where she called him her upgrade from me. Diane, being the psycho helicopter mom she is, immediately forwarded them all to Brandon with a long message about how this girl is trash-talking you all over the internet and making you look like a complete fool to thousands of people. Brandon finally took the time to actually watch Jessica's entire TikTok history and realized she'd been calling him a rebound, complaining about his toxic behavior while they were dating, and basically using him for content and free Chili's appetizers. He dumped her via text message. "We're done. Don't contact me again. My mom was right about you being trouble." Jessica's final TikTok was her crying in her childhood bedroom, surrounded by participation trophies and old stuffed animals. "I officially give up on dating. Men are literally all trash. I'm focusing on healing myself and my art now. Maybe someday I'll find someone who actually deserves me. Done with men. Starting my healing journey. Art therapy." The comments were surprisingly supportive, but for all the wrong reasons from her perspective. "Finally, you're doing men a favor. Yes, now when will you delete the account? Your art will thank you for this focus." Blake sent me the video with a series of crying, laughing emojis. Mission accomplished. And that's how I learned that sometimes the best response to someone calling you toxic on social media is to simply respect their independence and let them figure out what that actually costs. Jessica wanted to be single and independent so badly that she chose TikTok drama over a simple conversation. I just helped her achieve her goals faster than she expected. The restraining order is still in effect. I'm thriving in my new apartment. And Blake and I still laugh about the whole situation whenever we see couples arguing in public. Sometimes the trash really does take itself out. You just have to stop paying for the garbage collection service.